Good evening. Prominent Gold Coast charity founder and businessman Yas Matbouli will tonight be questioned by police.
Live to reporter Declan Milton now. Declan, what is he accused of?
Well, Sarah, 7 News has been told several women have made complaints to police. Matbouli knows he's wanted for questioning, and in the last few minutes, we've just seen him arrive here on his own. He didn't have much to say about any of this questioning here, why he's here. We know there's a lot of uncertainty about what this means for the thousands of people who rely on serving our people for their food every week. As boxes of bread bound for the needy were brought in, police moved in, closing the headquarters of Serving Our People as officers searched for evidence. The charity was founded by Yas Matbouli at the start of COVID. It outlived the pandemic, rolling straight into a cost of living crisis.
What we want to do is we want to, be able to help anyone that crosses our path.
The charity created Queensland's first free supermarket. 2 more followed. With a network of 2,500 volunteers, it feeds thousands of people every week. Yas Matbouli was in front of the cameras only a week before Christmas.
Seeing a rise of people doing it tough, and it hasn't stopped.
Last year, Matbouli revealed he was stepping down as CEO to focus on private interests, but now he's the focus of a police investigation. Serving Our People provides support to thousands across the state, from Brisbane through to northern New South Wales. It says it feeds around 2,000 people every week. We know it was one of the most impactful charities here on the Gold Coast during the cyclone and the pandemic. We've asked Serving Our People, in light of today's news, whether they'll open their doors tomorrow. We have not received a response. We must stress that its founder, Yas Matbouli, has not been charged with any offences. Sarah.
Declan Milton there at Southport Police Station. Thank you. A man has been killed at work after a bulldozer rolled several metres down a sand pit in the Port of Brisbane. Mel Whiteman is there. Mel, it happened at a cement business.
Sarah, police were initially called to reports a man had fallen out the window of the bulldozer. They arrived at the scene about 6:30 this morning to find the dozer as well as a worker who had died at the bottom of a large sand pit. It took 3 fire crews to stabilise the machinery. A jack had been used to hoist it off the ground next to a front-end loader. Tradies who turned up for work were turned away.
Nobody expects to go to work and not come home. There's a close-knit group of boys that work there.
Sunstate Cement hasn't commented. The Australian Workers Union says the loss is unacceptable and that the AWU is working to make sure employees have access to the support they need and that the site is safe. Workplace health and safety inspectors were on site today investigating how this unfolded. Max.
Mel Whiteman with that report. State and federal governments have finally agreed on a $25 billion deal to fix our failing public hospital system. As part of the agreement, money will be directly allocated to freeing up beds by fast-tracking hospital care for elderly patients.
They came from every corner of the country.
We're here in good faith.
Premiers and chief ministers chasing big money for public hospitals. Time on a federal government decision running out.
Good afternoon.
Anthony Albanese ending a months-long stalemate, committing $25 billion to public hospitals nationwide.
This agreement represents one of the most significant national reforms in living memory.
$2 billion allocated to speed up hospital discharge for elderly people waiting for beds in aged care homes.
Our ageing population's not going anywhere. Costs of delivering healthcare will continue to rise.
Tonight, that means the federal government's $50 billion National Disability Insurance Scheme is in the firing line. Spending growth slowing from more than 9 to 6%. Disability funding still expected to climb, just not as fast.
This is a failure of the great big promises that Anthony Albanese is prepared to throw out as headlines during an election campaign.
Doreen Deed is worried. Her 15-year-old daughter Emma has cerebral palsy and dystonia.
The most vulnerable people in Australia, they just need the support. Without the NDIS, I don't think Emma would be the happy girl that she is right now.
Thriving Kids is a program program designed to take pressure off the NDIS, supporting children with autism. Its rollout pushed back to October to give states and territories more time to prepare. Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
Infectious diseases experts are urging Australians not to panic over an outbreak of the deadly Nipah virus in India. Australia is closely monitoring the situation in West Bengal, where 2 people have contracted the virus and hundreds more have been quarantined.
It's a very serious virus. It's relatively rare, but its mortality rate is very high for a respiratory virus. So obviously I think all countries are monitoring this reported outbreak very closely.
There are no plans to screen international passengers coming into Australia at this stage. A family of 4 has been found dead inside their home in an affluent suburb of Perth. The bodies of 2 teenage boys, their parents and 3 pets were discovered by a visitor early this morning. Police have ruled out any violence being involved.
There was no weapon used during this incident, and the family have no reported family violence matters with police.
Investigators don't know when the family died, but it's being treated as a double murder-suicide.
The battle for the Liberal leadership appears to be finalised, with one of the favoured candidates pulling out of the race. Susan Lee now bracing for a challenge from Angus Taylor after rival Andrew Hastie bowed out, admitting he doesn't have the support.
Running when Seven's cameras caught up with him and running for the job of opposition leader.
I'm not commenting on the leadership at all.
Until late today. It is clear that I do not have the support needed to become the leader of the Liberal Party. Andrew Hastie declares in a statement to media, I will not be contesting the leadership. Clearing the leadership runway for rival Angus Taylor, one day after the pair discussed the issue at a highly publicised Melbourne meeting.
For a secret meeting, it wasn't so secret. I'm very glad that both Andrew Hastie and Angus Taylor didn't decide to become spies.
Angus Taylor making no comment today, but Hastie's move clarifies the Liberal leadership fight. Taylor versus Lee.
If you can't manage your own party, there's no way you can challenge for the privilege of managing the country.
This as current leader Susan Lee names a new front bench.
As the Shadow Treasurer, I will also be the Shadow Assistant Treasurer.
Ted O'Brien assisting himself as the leader loads her shadow ministry with new portfolios for Parliament next week. And she's cracked the whip on the Nationals, warning them if they're not back in the coalition in 10 days, then they're locked out of the shadow ministry. Saying the finalisation of longer-term shadow ministerial arrangements is also required.
There's no doubt the ball is in the Nationals' court, but Susan Lee has very wisely given them some time.
Of course, there's no guarantee come that February 9th deadline that Susan Lee is still the Liberal Party leader. The Liberal Conservatives now have one candidate for the top job, Angus Taylor, and there is intense interest tonight in how quickly he might strike. One Liberal Party room insider tells me that the numbers actually agitating for change is still pretty small, and so Taylor might actually hold off on any challenge next week. As well, next Tuesday, the day the Liberal Party is due to meet, is the day the Reserve Bank will announce potentially an interest rate increase. It would be a terrible day for politicians to be seen to fight among themselves. Max.
Tim Lester in Canberra. Police fear a firebug is to blame for 2 Gold Coast grass fires which occurred within 5 hours of each other in Pimpamar yesterday. The firefight wasn't the only challenge confronting crews.
One of our fire vehicles, whilst traversing across a causeway, that causeway gave way and the appliance unfortunately sank.
No one was hurt and the vehicle has since been recovered.
Young students were forced to use bus seats as shields as police opened fire on a stolen car in Geelong. The driver is under police guard in hospital, while his female passenger has been charged and freed.
Shots fired as a policeman desperately tries to protect himself.
Shots fired.
The driver hit in the arm, keeps going.
Oh my God! Oh my God! That was so scary. He's making a run for it.
Seats, please.
Children watching, metres away. Their school bus had just been rammed by a stolen Kia in Geelong. The driver drove towards police. Both officers pulled out their guns. One opened fire before the car drove into the intersection and smashed into another car. Its innocent occupants were rushed away, then hid behind a police car as a man and woman were arrested.
He kind of looked around and then thought first thing was to run away.
Students in another bus behind it, stunned.
Everyone was like, oh my gosh, I heard gunshots, this was crazy.
Parents rushed to their children.
I literally jumped out and ran as fast as I could. There were people in suits and dads, and there was people just trying to get down to their kids.
It's not the best first day Year 7 experience, is it?
Just huge relief that all of the students were safe.
All the kids out here, they are all pretty shaken up.
When the officer fired at the car, the bus was just behind.
What looked like it was towards the bus. Their sense was amongst the students that the policeman was very much firing towards the vehicle.
My immediate thought was, oh, what if there'd been, crossfire?
The accused driver, aged 37 of no fixed address, is under police guard in hospital, yet to be questioned.
I can't tell you how dismayed I am at the behaviour of this reckless, violent offender.
His accused passenger is 43 from New South Wales and she's been charged with just one offence, handling stolen goods. She has been bailed to appear in Geelong Magistrates Court on March 31. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
The Western world is ramping up the pressure on Iran. Europe has designated the rogue state's Revolutionary Guard as terrorists, and US warships have moved into striking range.
At the premiere of the First Lady's new documentary, supporting his wife but preparing for war.
We have a lot of very big, very powerful ships sailing to Iran right now, and it would be great if we didn't have to use them.
US firepower now within striking distance of Iran, Tehran vowing to respond immediately and powerfully to any attack. Pressure escalating following weeks of deadly anti-regime protests.
I told them two things. Number one, no nuclear, and number two, stop killing protesters.
The European Union joining the fray, today listing Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard as a terror group for its brutal crackdown, putting the IRGC among the likes of Hamas, Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda.
Those who operate through terror must be treated as terrorists.
Several countries are presently attempting to avert the eruption of an all-out war in our region, said Iran's foreign minister. Europe is instead busy fanning the flames. Neighbouring Middle East leaders driven by fears, experts say, of a wider collapse of law and order.
It could topple the rule of the Ayatollahs, only to be replaced by a military government, which would almost certainly include the IRGC.
We all agree that ensuring that Iran doesn't get that nuclear programme is a number one priority.
The world waiting to see what comes next. In London, Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
The lawyer representing former broadcaster Alan Jones says 8 witnesses will testify that they saw nothing when he fights indecent assault and sexual touching allegations in August. The 84-year-old wasn't in court when solicitor Brian Wrench sought access to key documents. More than 100 witnesses are expected to give evidence during a 4-week hearing. Workers have been evacuated after a large blaze at a Wagner's factory in Toowoomba. Shipping containers filled with chemicals erupted around 7:20 this morning. The quick response of firefighters being credited with saving surrounding sheds. One person was taken to hospital to be treated for smoke inhalation. The cause of the fire is unknown, with Workplace Health and Safety investigating.
Well, Aryna Sabalenka is making quite the racket at the Australian Open. Rowan, the world #1, is through to the women's final.
Yeah, but it wasn't without controversy, Sarah. She was pulled up for excessive grunting by the chair umpire, and the drama was only just getting started.
Continuing a love affair with Melbourne Park.
I just love this place. I love this stadium, and every time I'm competing there, I really enjoy my time.
And a love-hate affair with her fierce Ukrainian rival.
She knows that I respect her as a player. I know that she respects me as a player.
Two-time champion Aryna Sabalenka dishing up a post-match serve under her breath, directing a fiery F-bomb towards Alina Svitolina, coming after the Ukrainian refused a pre-match photo and post-match handshake. But that wasn't the only moment of controversy. Australian sporting greats watched on as tensions threatened to boil over. In just the fourth game of the match, the sounds of silence were broken.
Stop. Hindrance.
Sabalenka penalised, a point for excessive grunting.
I think it was a wrong call, but whatever. She really, how do I say it in a nice way? She really pissed me off.
Sabalenka stormed into a fourth straight Australian Open final, setting up a rematch of the 2023 decider against Elena Rybakina. And in a shock to the tennis world, 44-year-old Serena Williams has refused to shut down rumours she's set to return to the court. Theodoropoulos, 7 News.
Now to Tony Auden. Tony, thankfully a bit less dramatic on the weather front.
Yes, Max, and that's not normally the case at this time of year. Still, there are a couple of things going on. First, we have a couple of lows sitting out to sea. They'll combine to push in a decent easterly swell onto the beaches, with plenty of waves on offer on the Gold and Sunshine Coast for surfers over the weekend. Then up to the Gulf of Carpentaria, where a tropical low is lurking. Cyclone, or more likely not, if it stays slow moving, that would lead to more heavy rain around already flood-affected Gulf communities. I'll be back soon with the full weekend forecast.
Thanks, Tony.